Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. I hope you're doing well there. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great, and I appreciate you stopping by. So, diving into this Erik Spoelstra press conference, Erik Spoelstra gave a very, very interesting media session yesterday to the reporters, boots on the ground in Las Vegas, and shout out to all the boys out there in Sin City. You got a fight week coming up on top of it. Like, man, how did we miss going out there? This was stupid. We should have been out there. Although it is like 109 degrees. And I've been covering fights in the middle of July, early August. Whew. It's like walking through an oven. That's why everything is underground, basically, or everything is undercover in Las Vegas outside of the pools, which are chilled. But anyway, great questions yesterday. A lot of ground covered by the media at hand. The most interesting thing was by far the Kel'el Ware call out, because it was the number one thing on everybody's mind. Like, hey, what the hell is going on here? And it was funny because yesterday I see the quotes and I didn't see the press conference. So like, I'm seeing this. I did this video with Kel'el Ware. Kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt. And then Erik Spoelstra was like, he's like, no benefit of the doubt. They're very, very clearly not in a place where they're very happy with their rookie center and how he's going about things. And it was, by Erik Spoelstra standards, pretty damn explosive. He does not do that often. And I think it was, I don't know who put this on Twitter, but it was a well put, where it's like, how many times do you think it was said behind the scenes to Kel'el Ware before Erik Spoelstra took something like that public, which is a very fair point. He doesn't do this very often. He's done it with Hassan Whiteside. I know there's going to be a lot of Kel'el Whiteside comparisons. And one thing that is lost with the, look, Hassan Whiteside, when he became a max player, was not a guy I think the organization was getting enough from as a max guy. Especially, somebody who wanted to like add elements to his game, become more of a shooter. He wanted to be thought of himself amongst the Joel Embiids. But like, when Hassan was in his element as amazing rebounder, unbelievable force, blocking shots at the rim, man, he was incredible. There's a reason why the Heat offered him, and multiple teams were going to offer him that money. We do have to mind, Hassan took a journey, flamed out with the Kings, ended up in Lebanon, busted his knee, then ended up on a two-way with the Heat, or a couple 10 days with the Heat. Was putting up incredible numbers in the G League. It was like G League wilt. This is a little bit of a different situation. Kel'el has been dealing with this moniker of motor being an issue since college. This was a thing that he had at Oregon. And he gets to Indiana, and his mom tells Mike Woodson, like, do what you can to be hard on him and get him to where he was. And, to Woodson's credit, like, they turned him into a first-round pick that did have some of that stuff, but obviously the talent was there. And that was Spo's point yesterday on Kel'el, was that, hey, the talent is there. He said the talent is there. But he said the professionalism and the consistency has to improve. And he says it is, but our standards aren't going to change. And that's always his answer for when he doesn't want to go and lean into young guys and just let them ball. They kind of fell into that with Kel'el, where he had this incredible game against Wembanyama. And then, like, what are you going to do? You're just not going to play the guy. As Bam has been saying, I've been begging you to play him at all times. So there is a give and take with it, because you do have to have a line of like, who's the most talented, but is also playing up to what you need him to. And very clearly he wasn't. And the thing I found interesting about this the most yesterday was, for the most part, I felt like Spo was very positive about him when he was on the ESPN broadcast. But then the Miami Heat had this fourth quarter collapse that was a little reminiscent of too many of their regular season games. And very clearly you could see in Coach Glass, nobody was happy about it. He wasn't happy about it, and very clearly Erik Spoelstra wasn't happy about it. So when we get to today, if Kel'el Ware, I'm not wearing a watch, but if we get to today at 7:30 And first, it'll be interesting if he is playing, because they do have a back-to-back. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he plays tomorrow. But with him playing, doing all the physical drills, I think they want to get him right back out there. I'd imagine he is going to play. But he, he made it known, like it was pointed that, he needs to get in the weight room, which he is. He said on the ESPN broadcast he's putting on 8 to 10 pounds, but that things need to be consistent. And I honestly thought the most interesting thing, because, I had heard, Alonzo said on our broadcast, he said that he had been in the weight room a lot, that he had seen a lot of that. But this to me was almost the interesting thing, is he said that he needs to do things with more force, and then he starts slapping his hands. Do things with force, do things with purpose. He's like, Malik Allen's the best big man coach in the league. They're spending a lot of time hitting in practice. You saw that a little bit with Haslam. And he said, he mentioned some interesting things where he said that he needs to learn how to be a pro, but he says that he needs to, and to add examples to it, he said he needs to be early, have great energy, and countenance, which I was like, that's a big word for me, dog. I don't even know if I just said it right there, which I was like, what the hell is countenance? I was like, I've never heard that. And I look up countenance, and it says a person's face or facial expression or support. So I don't know which version he's going into it. Are you saying that he's got bad body language and having the having the right mentality of giving the right body language? But I was like, whoa. And then he said, how you do anything is how you do everything, and he has to get better with professionalism. I was like, holy shit. This was, I mean, like, when I saw this presser, I was like, whoo, boy, that was spicy. For Spo, I was like, damn, dude, that was something. That was absolutely, absolutely something. So I'm very curious to see how Kel'el responds. I do think that, the maturity thing of, how he was taking, how the game went the playoffs went last year. I don't know if he got a grasp of like how overmatched he seemed. And this can always be a delicate dance of how, losing a guy completely over it, or can he respond in the right way? So we'll see. I mean, I hope that he responds in the right way, because I think he's been in this boat before, and I think that he has responded in the right way. We've seen this with Niko, right? Where, Niko got a lot of this, where he was really, really lost. And, to a point where I don't think he ever felt like he was going to get the coach's trust, and maybe even some feeling that they were putting him in the wrong position. And, in that place, sometimes you even need your teammates. It's going to be interesting to see how his teammates pick him up in this regard, right? And I'm not saying they got to coddle him, but to say like, hey, this is all a test on like how you are. Because I think everybody watches Kel'el Ware, and you're like, yeah, Spo's right. All the talent is there. He looks like, when he's right, looks like an unbelievable eye-popping talent. So it's, and I'm curious to see what he's going to say when he gets to talk. I don't know if that's going to be, I don't know if he'll talk today after the game. I'd imagine that's going to come. But also, it's not anything. I don't think it's anything he doesn't know. I'm sure this has been pounded into his head a lot. And maybe if it got to the point where Spo felt like he needed to say something, then it probably had gotten to a breaking point, because I do think that they really wanted him to get to summer and impress and do things. And he also mentioned this. He mentioned on this press conference that he feels like that Nikola Jović and the way that he's grown in his professionalism and maturity, he's like that kind of reminds me, like, hey, it can happen. And so it was almost like, hey, we dealt with some of this stuff with Jović. I do think that, Jović was very clearly there's some physical stuff, and he's such a unique player. He doesn't play like Kel'el, but has added the physicality. And Spo had talked about that he is excited to see, what he brings, and that he feels like he's going to come back looking different, stronger, and excited. But the interesting thing that he said about Jović, dude, was that Nikola Jović was heading towards where he needed to be last year before he got hurt. And I do think that he is starting to trust him as a player. And I do think that he feels like that he's doing all the right things. But the other thing that was interesting about it was in regards to Niko and Eurobasket, because he's going to go there and play for Serbia, a team with high expectations. And Spo laid down a challenge to him. He's like, hey, I want you to go there and become a real part of that rotation. And I was like, all right. And it's been interesting because he says that he puts in a lot of work with the Heat in the summer. And he's had a really good summer so far, according to Spo. But he likes the fact that there's also this mix of pressure with Serbia. I mean, Serbia is one of the best countries in the world with basketball right now, not just because they have the Joker. We saw in the Olympics last year. But he said at the World Cup a couple of years ago, he referred to him as a token starter. And I was like, Jesus, that was a pretty cutting thing to say. A token starter? He says in the moments of truth, he wasn't out there. And I'm like, well, that is true, especially as the tournament went on. I was like, God damn, Spo. Spo was pulling no punches yesterday. Then he said, what was he last year? He was like the ninth, ninth guy. He wasn't getting the real minutes. And he says, make that Hall of Fame coach earn your trust. That coach who is really demanding. I don't think Spo knows the coach's name. I don't even know if I know how to say it. Svetislav Pesic, I think is how you say it. I apologize if I'm butchering that for all our Serbian viewers out there. I know we do have those. Svetislav Pesic. I think I did better there, but I'm not too confident. Maybe that's why Coach Spo doesn't go with his name. But Coach Pesic, Spo was basically saying, hey, like, go be a part of the winning over there. And while last year, like, he did give him a ton of credit for Niko, because Niko broke his ankle last summer and made his way available to play for that team. And Spo did give Niko a lot of credit for that, and I do think we saw a big jump for Niko this year in Spo's trust of him. But I think that was an interesting thing to lay down to his now fourth year. Was it fourth year? Fourth year? How the hell is Nikola Jović in his fourth year? That's crazy. Man, time flies, dude. This kid's been here for 4 years now. Whew. Crazy. Anyway, Niko, 22 years old. Like, yeah, this is a big year. And I think the Miami Heat certainly want to lean into Niko, being as unique a player that he is. And Spo using that bridge of his challenge to Kel'el Ware, but having faith in Niko, and that Niko has taken a lot of that stuff. There was a lot of times Niko was down. And Niko said this last year. One of the things that I really, he is an accountable dude. And he's like, I have let this team down. I have not lived up to my end of the bargain. But I have grown up a lot. I've gone from a boy to a man. And I want to be part of the winning here. So he has not shelled up from that stuff. And maybe there's been tough times where he's like, he got the backing from Jimmy. Jimmy was, to be fair, really great about that with Niko. Really took care of him, believed in his skill. And I'm very curious. Everybody who watches this channel knows I love Nikola Jović. And I really feel like he just brings such an interesting dynamic to this team. So we'll see. I can't wait for Eurobasket this year between him, Fontecchio, Pella. Continue to see in the summer of Pella. I don't know what Sweden's chances are. Like, unless Gustav Forsling is going to play the three for them, I don't know what they're going to do. as far as like actual damage in Eurobasket, but I definitely think that this is a great opportunity for Jovic, because I don't know if Joker's playing. I don't know if Joker's playing. I believe Luka's playing. Let me see. Is Nikola Jović playing in Eurobasket? It's the last thing I have is it's not definitively confirmed. Let's see. The last thing I got is in May. I got Bogdan Bogdanović has optimism that Jokic will play for Eurobasket. So I'm not positive. The last thing will I guess it's not confirmed yet. It'll probably have a bit, and so like it'll have a big impact on, obviously, if Joker's out there, it may have an impact on Jovic's minute. But I think Spo's point, if he's out there, he's not out there. Be a big part of it, and I'm excited to see how that happens. And quite frankly, I'm excited for either Sunday or Monday's game to see what there's going to be everybody's eyeballs on how Kel'el Ware attacks the glass. And the thing I think the Heat want to make is look. I apologize for my voice today too. The Heat's last point on it is, look, even if Kel'el goes out there and puts up a double-double, it's, can he do it again? Can he do it again? It's not going to be like that one performance against the G Leaguers of Summer League are going to quiet anything. They need it to be a everyday type of thing. But I do think that with what the summer's been, Coach Spo felt like we had hit a crossroads where he needed to say something about it publicly. So we'll see how Kel'el responds.